Yeah. TLDC. Hello, good morning to you. We're open now. Your daily live streaming community. Thanks for tuning in today. We've got a special guest. Her name's Melissa Chambers, but you can call her Mel. TLDChat, where the good stuff is at. VILT chat. That's what we're talking today. And instructional design, or whatever's on your mind. They're keeping it busy in the chat. TLD chat. Way, put the way into webinar.
Woo, all right. Hey, if I had my soundboard, I'd give you the applause button, but I don't have it.
I think Mel's got it there. That's good.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sam. I super appreciate that. Stick around if you want to. Really, it's not a problem.
Sure. Well, by special request, just for Mel, I can come out and do stuff every now and again.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Sam.
Sure. Nice to see you.
Awesome. So, hey, welcome to TLD Chat, everybody. Welcome to Thursday TLD Chat. Like Sam said, we have a fantastic guest today. Melissa Chambers is going to be here. The wonderful and all-knowledgeable virtual ILT and instructional design genius hanging out with us today. Talking to us about some good stuff. And so we'll have a great conversation about that in a second. Let me just tell you guys a little bit about it. If we've got new folks hanging out in the chat, TLD Chat is the Training, Learning, and Development Conference, Community, and Chat. What you're hanging out in right now is the chat and with the community. We're hanging out here every morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. UK time. Big shout out to our international folks. Do we have representation? Just checking.
Don't see any yet from the UK contingent. Any minute now.
Marco jump on yet? No.
Not
well,
yet.
Okay. I like to give a little pause just to make sure we can we recognize our international folks just to make sure. I don't like to leave them out. We've got a good group of folks, so they will. I'm sure be here shortly. So good times. But anyways, again, I am coming to you live from the bomb shelter in Iowa, and so far no plans of moving just yet. If you haven't been following my adventures, I was driving from Phoenix to Iowa to drop my daughter off at school, and the car broke down, and so we rented a U-Haul with a car hauler on the back, and we towed the car the rest of the way here. Just got the dumb thing sold, and we'll try to look for another new one for her over the weekend, and then hopefully I'll be back in the wonderful digs of the Schlenker family abode on Monday. But we'll see how that goes, right? Good times for sure. Adventures to be had by all. But here we go. So, hey, today, TLD Chat Thursday. Melissa Chambers, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Brent, and inviting me. And again, big thank you to my friend Sam for the beatbox intro. Sam, I know we're talking VILT, or at least we're going to kick off with that. I met Sam producing events. He was someone that I worked with. We really hit it off. And he actually ended up beatboxing the intro to that. I was like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever. So when I found out that he was involved with this, is there any way Sam could come and beatbox my intro? I would just love it. So I just, thank you so much. It's so unique. And it's really, I think it's a great way to get people energized, because I think a lot of people come to this, it kind of segues into the VILT. If we go that way of, how do you immediately get people engaged as soon as they come on to something like this? And I think that was a really great example right there. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I never have to try hard for unique. That one comes pretty easy. But making people feel like there's a reason to join on time too, and, like that you start before on time, so that they're coming in on something always lends to the excitement.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't want to feel like they're going to miss out the beatboxing intro. So, But so if we just sporadically, I know you can't be here every morning, but if we sporadically toss you in, then people won't know which days he's going to be there and which days he's not. So they're going to have to be here every morning if they want to catch you.
That's right. Well, I won't be here tomorrow for Video Friday. We have great guests lined up and everything, but I'll actually be presenting in Sacramento for a local ATD chapter thing. So I will not be able to be here tomorrow. So that's another reason to contribute today.
Outstanding.
Well, we're really interested to hear what you have to say, Mel, too, about all of your experiences. Beatbox is just one little random thing, and all of the many experiences that you have kicking it off with VILT kind of stuff. Could you say just a little bit about your experience with doing that?
Sure. So, I've actually been doing VILT for quite a long time. I'm going to date myself a little bit. My first experience with live online learning started in 1998. So before we had all these nifty tools like we're using today with TLDChat, before the Adobe Connects, the webinars, the go-tos and WebExes and all that, I worked for this little startup company. So I moved to California. This is when I was still footloose and fancy free and no mortgages and husband yet. And I could just up and move to California. And it was the .com era. And I worked for this little training company. And interesting enough, and hopefully we'll talk about this a little later, my background initially was marketing and communications. That's what my undergrad was, Marcom. So I kind of came into L&D, I think, like a lot of people do. They don't go to college going, I'm going to be a training professional. They usually come in through another path, and that was me. It was through marketing and communication. So I was working for this small company, and they did training, gonna date me. You remember the icons and those companies where you go and set up in the back of their shop and train? Well, they decided they wanted to do online training, which nobody was really doing. And so because it was a .com and it was small, they're like, hey, you marketing person, and hey, you, that's the way it always was, come over and help us build this prototype. And they wanted to call it Flex Learn. And it really was, hey, we've got this screen sharing capability. We'll get everybody on a phone line and let's try it. And so that was, I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And that was 98. Mm-hmm. And then, way back. So we've come a long way. And then I continued to do Marcom for a couple years. And then I got in with a really large company. And I ended up doing marketing and development for that marketing and communication for the learning and development team there. And we had this amazing director, Ed Cohen. I really owe my career to him. He was quite the visionary, and he built this amazing corporate university with Booz Allen Hamilton, and I was a part of that. And this was the year 2000, and we had this big e-learning strategy, right? So e-learning was still kind of being newly coined. And it's funny because as I was preparing for this, we just moved last year. My husband's in the military, so I'm still like finding, it's like Christmas sometimes, like still finding stuff. Right. I actually found the original ad. I still have it. It was a magnet. It was all aboard the E train magnet. This was our ad campaign. It was Booz Allen. We had B and Alan. Alan was the conductor. you know, and we had built this corporate university. It was a virtual university. So this is also when LMSs were kind of new, you know, still.
Yep.
And we built this virtual campus, but this was so brand new and it was really exciting. And that's when I really got the bug. And part of that was deploying virtual instructor-led training. And there were no processes in place at the time for that. You know, how do you do this? And, you know, we actually had to put a change management strategy in place with that. So yeah, I've been doing VILT for a really long time. I've seen the pitfalls. And one of the things that, you know, I love to talk about, and I work a lot with my good friend and colleague, Karen Heider. We do a lot of workshops on this, and we're still always really floored that people are still hiring us all these years to come in and get their VILT up and running because it's still really misunderstood what it takes to do successful VILTs and what it takes to do successful webinars. And, you know, coming to this today, I just warmed the cockles of my heart, you know, maybe below the cockles, in the subcockle area, to see like the checklist that I got, you know, go and check your webcam and check your audio and check, you know, that's great, but great best practice. But these are not best practices that we're still not seeing that in VILT today. So that's a little bit of my history of how I kind of got into VILT. I got the bug early, and you know, although I am an online instructional designer, I do all sorts of design in the e-learning space and building online experiences. My love is still that niche in the VILT for sure. And really, my real niche is when organizations come to me and say, we have all this existing training and it's stand-up training, we want to put it into a VILT format, and they realize they don't know what they're doing. So that's really good.
That's when they actually realize that they don't know what they're doing. That's the best part. Oftentimes they don't realize that they don't know what they're doing, and that makes it a lot harder, I would assume.
Yes. You know, one of the first things I do when I go to an organization is, you know, okay, we'll bring you in. We want to put this online. You know, okay, what does online mean? That means a lot of things these days, right? Well, we want to do VILT, but we're already doing VILT. Like, oh, are you really? Okay, so can you show me what you're doing? Let me see an example. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, they've taken their PowerPoints, they put it up, and somebody's, you know, just talking to it. And I'm like, that's not VILT. Let me help you get to that space. And a lot of times when, you know, Karen and I do workshops, we'll do full workshops on how to adapt your existing traditional training to online. And we do ISD workshops as well. And, you know, it's not instructional designers that are coming to this. You know, they don't really know. They've been asked, like, I've been asked to do this, or I have this idea that I really want to do it. And it's just so overwhelming to me. And it is overwhelming because it's not like classroom at all, where you just show up and put slides up on a screen and you have a facilitator talking. There's so much more that envelops that. And that's where the organizations really fall down, not understanding everything that envelops preparing the organization itself to do VILT. So a funny story with that, when we rolled it out at Booz Allen, we did all this change management. We were so excited. We found the lowest hanging fruit to do the first course. And we'll go into the strategy of that. And, you know, me geeking out like, oh my God, this is so great. Da, 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 da. And the people that we overlooked our own colleagues in the L&D team. Facilitators, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to be out of a job? I can't do this. They were so against us, but we were so blind to that. We're like, how could you not love this? Come on.
Right?
This is... Yep. And it's still happening. It's still happening. It's one person. It's like, please look around who you work with and make sure you have buy-in within your own little circle before you go out and try to push this to your organization.
Made the same mistake here in 2004 with rolling out VILT stuff and not engaging the folks that felt very threatened by that.
Yeah, that's the word, threatened. And I hear that a lot. You know, well, sorry, go ahead, Brent.
Oh, I was just going to say it definitely happens. I mean, I think every time a new technology comes in, there's somebody or some group of somebodies that feels threatened by it in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, then for those of us who like to geek out, right, we have the mentality of if we build it, of course they will come. And that's just not the case at all. And I love seeing these new conversations now. I know, Brent, this is something you've been talking about for a long time. I didn't get to make the cast earlier this week when we were talking about marketing. I know there's another organization having a big summit about marketing skills. And the marketeer in me, and the fact that that's how I ended up coming into L&D, I think that's fantastic. That's a big part of it. And oftentimes, I talk to clients, and I've been in contracts where I think there's this like really smudgy line between marketing and training, and it should be, because oftentimes I'm sure, and I know a lot of these people that are on the call today, we're contractors and instructional designers and L&D professionals, and we go in there and go, okay, we've decided we're going to do this, and I'm hiring you to make it happen. And then you start asking the hard questions. And that just happened recently. I'm like, well, you say you want that, but it really kind of just sounds like you need like a 2-minute explainer video on this. You don't really need like this full simulation thing that you're talking about, because, they don't know what they don't know. But explainer video, they go, oh, well, no, that's marketing. I go, yeah, but so is training in a way. Like, again, there's that smudgy line happening. And I worked on a contract where they brought me in for VILT. I ended up being on the contract for about 4.5 years, and we ended up building this beautiful suite of learning experiences. So some of it was formal training and in the LMS, and then some of it was, and I loved doing this. This became, I got into doing it again, kind of fell into it, making these explainer videos. We call them "Did You Know" videos, about 2 minutes in length, and then we would package them. So it's part of that curated content, and we made this beautiful help site. And it became like, okay, you need to know this one little thing. Here's like 2 minutes. But it started out as marketing. It would be pushed out in email. And it would be the weekly, like, hey, did you know that you could do X, Y, and Z with this program? And this is how it's going to make your life easier. Come check this out. And so, or here's the latest thing in this database that could make your life easier. And eventually I said, well, why can't we just take all those little did you knows that we're doing for marketing and now put them on the site, the social site within the organization now. And now we've got this curated, and it becomes part of the training curriculum for all of it. It's like, to the organization. Like, oh, okay, marketing and training. Yep.
Yeah, all that stuff. I think finding like the idea. It's exciting for me when I hear people start to ask questions about the new terminology. Like, I'm not one much for semantics and whatnot, but Josh Burson, I think, kind of started the trend. I don't know, maybe it was somebody else. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or not, but he talks a lot about just digital learning, right? And to see the industry as a whole, to see the associations and vendors start to grasp onto that, it really finally starts to make me feel like we're moving away from what everybody believes is e-learning to something different, which is what you're talking about, right? Other types of content being utilized for training, because they really are. I've always said too that, all content has the potential to be learning content, right? It's just a matter of how you use it to, one person's, content that doesn't mean anything or isn't any good is another person's brilliant piece of content that they've been looking for their whole lives, that they finally found that bit of information and now can do their jobs better or something. You never really know.
Early on in my career, I was an Elliott Macy junkie. I was talking to Luis about this. And I used to go to his conferences, and he has this really cool, I don't know if he still does, this really cool think tank up in Saratoga Springs, New York, and upstate New York, which is where he lives. You still got it? Oh my God, talk about geeking out. And if you know Elliott Macy, he could be probably, and still is, just so forward thinking. And one of the things that really resonated with me was, he said this, I don't even know, this was like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, because eventually the E in e-learning is going to go away. There's no need to have the E anymore. because that's where we're going. I mean, even if you're going to stand-up training, there's still some element of it you're doing maybe before or after, or supplementing it, that's online, or it's digital, as well. So, but we're working with clients and you said something about kind of the terminology and not getting caught up in that. And I don't disagree, because I think we all kind of define things differently, but I've been trying to kind of shop around lately, this idea of doing a kind of a broadcast on terminology road rage, jargon matters, and why it matters. Because I'm starting to see this trend with my clients of having this who's on first conversations a lot. And some of these conversations, I'm like, okay, we're saying the same thing here. You're just calling it something different, because most of us here on this call, we're learning professionals, and maybe some of us, like myself, I have a degree, a master's in instructional design for online learning. Okay, so what? So I have this, pedagogical, terminology, but my clients don't, so a video to them and a video to me, like I was just talking about explainer videos. Explainer videos are different than maybe, what Sam's calling a video or what my client's calling a video. And I'm seeing this misuse with the clients of terminology. And I think it has to become more of our job to make sure we're defining that for our clients at the beginning of projects. So we're not having that who's on first conversation. Look, I want an assessment here. I'm like, don't you mean you want to know? You mean you're talking about you want an evaluation? Well, yeah, I want an evaluation. Or no, okay, well, okay. And now let's check. It's not an assessment. Assessment is not an evaluation. Let's
just the test. The thing that with the questions or the thing at the
survey, like, nice. Oh, you don't want a video, you want a simulation. Got it. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Right. Hey, so we've got a question. We've got a question in the Q&A box, and I think it takes us in a good direction. So Kara asks, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see organizations make when kicking off virtual ILT?
Oh, great. Thanks, Kara. Great question. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that they don't understand, and I mentioned just a little bit, the processes that go around a VILT. They think, oh, I've got the tool, I'll send out an email, people will just show up and they'll know what to do. And when we do workshops, we talk about like these 3 T's with VILT when you're designing and you're deploying it. It's, obviously the T, technology, timing, things take a lot longer with VILT when it comes to production work. But the thing I think that gets looked over the most is the people factor. Okay.
That doesn't start
most
with
people.
T.
It doesn't. Talent. We call it talent.
There you go.
Talent is the people factor, and this is what I mean by the people factor. You've got different people that are involved in a VILT. So of course you've got your facilitator. We talked just a bit about that before. Like, are they prepared to teach online? You might have a really good facilitation skill set, and you can stand in front of a room, and you have your tools that you use as a facilitator. And a lot of that can transfer over to web. What people aren't good at is like this. Looking to the webcam, being able to monitor chat and facilitate at the same time. Yeah. Being able to actually project and know that you have to have a little bit different facilitation persona online than you do in a stand-up course. The other thing that's really overlooked is the learner. Does the learner know how to learn online? And I think we make a bad assumption that they do. Do they know how to use the chat? Do they know how to turn on the webcam if you're going to do it? How did they feel when they hear, okay, so I'm going to put you into virtual breakout rooms? Most times, you can almost feel the anxiety. Say again, Sam?
What are we breaking? Who's breaking? I'm not breaking anything. Who broke anything?
Right, what? So the other part of that is the designer, and this is why I still love to do production work. You know, it's not my breadwinning job for sure, but it keeps my skill set up as a facilitator and as an instructional designer. So I've seen really bad design happen where it's a 90-minute session and they've got 4 breakout activities. And if anybody's ever done VILT and has done a breakout, there's a lot involved in setting up a breakout room, putting people into breakout rooms, giving instructions so people know what to do when they're in the breakout rooms. You know, it's not simple. So I think the biggest challenge is that they don't understand how much more planning you have to do when you're going to do a VILT. Now, if it's done well, it can be really engaging. I've done thousands and sessions with really robust breakout activities. And when it's done well, people come out and go, wow, that was just as great as the classroom. I had no idea it could be that way. And so when I teach like instructional design workshops for this, I have a saying, it's not about the technology, it's about the design, except when it's about the technology. So so this is what I mean by that. And so this is me in a long way answering your question, Kara, is people get so hung up on the technology that they lose their minds and forget that it's really about how strong is your design. So focus on the design first. Go, okay, here's my learning objective, and the activity is going to be a discussion. Great, that's your design. Okay, now how are you going to facilitate that discussion? Are you going to do it in chat? Are you going to do it in a breakout room? Are you going to, are you going to let people come off of mic to do it? Now you put in the technology. So I think people get hung up, and I see a lot of people will always ask the question, what's your go-to feature in a VILT? Anybody know probably what the number one answer to that is? What's your favorite go-to feature?
The whiteboard?
You see people. No,
hands.
that's not it, actually. I wish it was. Sam, I saw you raising your hand. Anybody in chat?
Yeah, I was just saying raising hands. Like, that's the easiest button to click. I love so many times. Polling is the one we hear the most.
The poll
Using
feature.
A poll, which could be the
yeah,
raising the hand too, right? Yeah. Give me a green check for yes. Give me a red X for no. Yeah. So that's a poll as well. And also, well, why the poll? Well, it's easy. Everybody knows how to use a poll. And when I'm prepping, I do a lot of production work. I mean, that's how I met Sam and prepping him for one of his sessions. It wasn't Sam asking me this question because he knows his webinars. But for those that are new, they'll go, "Oh, should I do some polling? Should I put a poll in here? What do you think about doing a poll?" And I'll go, well, why are you doing the poll? What's the point of your poll? Are you polling just for poll's sake because you think that's going to engage people? Which is probably the number one question I get. How do you know people are engaged in your session? And my answer is usually like, you don't. People are always multitasking.
If there's a poll every 11.2 slides, then
a poll every yeah. Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine. So they'll put polls in, and which I think is an excellent tool. So I'm not poo-pooing polls by any shape or form. But it goes back to that design. Okay, why are you doing the poll? Don't bring up the poll, have them answer the poll, and go, okay, great, thanks for answering the poll. Let's move on. Your learner's going to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to answer any more of your polls. I don't even know why you asked me that. You need to then design it in a way, okay, I'm using the poll to set up what my next topic is. I'm using the poll to understand who my audience is today. So I can then take the conversation in the direction that it seems like everybody wants today instead of maybe what I planned for today. Right. So I think, that's where I see the biggest downfall is that they get so hung up in the bells and the whistles and the technology that the instructional design goes right out the window. Hope that answers your question, Kara.
I think we still see that, right? You would hope that we've had this technology for so long. You would hope that we would have all gotten past that by now. But I think
we lost her.
Uh-oh.
Go get her back.
Oh no. Oh, and I forgot to even mention that it's like 2 days this week now. My internet connection has sort of dropped out on me mid-show, and I had to tether through my iPhone. So if I drop out, that's just me trying to get reconnected through my iPhone. So.
Okay, I suppose I should know what to do. I'm probably the safety here.
You're the safety host, yes.
Let's.
Okay, I reinvited her.
Good. Here she is.
There we go.
Did I accidentally kick you out?
I know some little, something popped up on my screen. It was annoying me. I clicked X, and then I was like, "Oh boy!"
Don't annoy yourself, Mel. That doesn't.
Don't annoy you.
We need your green.
I couldn't see y'all's wonderful faces, and I was like, X that out. Actually, but that's a perfect example of knowing your tool. When we're teaching facilitators and we're teaching people to ramp up to be producers, or even instructional designers. Again, this is why I say I keep doing production work, so I can keep my skills set up and really understand the pain points when it comes to using the tools. And I say, you got to know your tool inside and out for exactly what we just saw happen. Like, so when you go, oh my God, I just lost my PowerPoint slides, or for some reason people can't chat anymore, and you go, oh, well, I know in WebEx, I forgot to click that thing that says private chat is allowed for everyone and not just to. Otherwise, you're wasting all this time, and time is of the essence. I mean, especially when you have a 90-minute course and then you end up eating 15 minutes at the beginning of your course, like struggling with the technology. Yeah. You really, you need to know your tool for sure. So Sam, whoever reinvited me, knew the tool. Good job.
That was Brent. Yes,
I try to learn the tool. Yeah, I'll just also be clear. So for those folks who think that like what we're doing is virtual ILT, this is not. This is just to be clear, right? What we do here on TLDChat is we like to consider it like the hallway conversations you have at events, right? Everybody says that's their favorite part of going to an event is when they stumble across somebody having a great conversation, or they see old friends and they get to just talk shop, or, and just learn from each other in that really informal way. It's kind of how I equate what we're doing here, is that I like, we invite the community to come together and we just have conversations about the work that we do. And the goal is to help everybody have a little bit of professional development each day, but there is no real design strategy. There is no real plan, except on the days when we have guests, right? We like to try to plan a little bit ahead and make the guests feel comfortable with, and thank you very much, Sam, for helping us with that list. I forgot to give Sam a shout out for that. So the email that warmed the cockles of your heart, were definitely inspired by Sam for us to be doing that. So Luis makes sure those go out and design that. But anyways, so this is very different than a lot of what Mel is saying applies, everyone, to this, of course, as well. But in general, we are not here every day to do instruction per se, right? With designed instruction with a particular outcome. The idea is to give everybody an opportunity to network and to hang out and to be a community. So just wanted to kind of clear that up.
Thank you for clearing that up, because this goes back to my terminology, road rage. When we do workshops, we'll ask people, tell me what you think, just what you did. Let's define it. What is a webinar? What is a VILT? They are two different things. Okay, and there's a spectrum of how much interaction and engagement there is, the low-level spectrum, which is really more what a webinar is. I'm pushing information out. Maybe I'll throw in a couple polls here and there, just to engage you. Versus VILT it's structure-led, it's facilitated, it's typically structured, and that's the other thing I see when I go into organizations and they say, oh, I'm doing VILT. I'm like, not really. You're just doing glorified webinars is what you're doing, with a few polls thrown in because you like polls. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is a lot of the challenge going into the organizations. Again, they don't know what they don't know, and it's our jobs to let them, because that's what we do as consultants, to say
I just don't want anybody to go, yeah, we want to do virtual ILT the way they do TLDChat. I just don't want that to be the comparison, right? I mean,
right.
I'd be flattered, but I'd also be kind of concerned that I'm like, well, what we do isn't really virtual ILT. So what you're asking for is maybe you want to build a community within your organization and you want to give them an opportunity to meet, even if they're displaced across the globe, right? I mean, this is probably the most fantastic part for me that I love about technology. And I've loved it since the very first time I had somebody from Japan comment on my blog. And I thought how awesome that is, that somebody from the other side of the globe can actually interact with me. And that blew my mind. And this is the same way, right? All my friends from the UK, from Canada, from anybody that wants to jump in can jump in and hang out with us and talk shop. And to me, that's incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Even if we're just chatting, right? We're building relationships, we're building a network where, everybody is learning what everybody else is doing. And, when in the past, when you could only kind of do that face-to-face meeting that happened once a year, or maybe you did a couple face-to-face events a year, it gets to the point where everything takes a long time. But with technology, we can scale up everybody's knowledge and sharing and networking so much better. So,
more organizations need to do this. Need
Absolutely.
to set something like this up as part of the learning.
So what would you call it if they did, Mel? So we've got on the spectrum that you're talking about, webinar to VILT. This is maybe more of just live streaming, community development or something. Do you have a spectrum, or could we draw it up in a graphic? What are the other words that would appear on it?
Well, I do have a graphic I use. It looks like I can't show it. I love that question because we put on that spectrum things like this and meetings. I go, where do you find meeting in the spectrum? And I think what we're doing here would be, it's not low level, because on that spectrum is engagement and facilitation is usually what I have on the spectrum, right? Engagement. So is it low level engagement, little to no facilitation, it's just presenting, right? To high level engagement and activity to high level of facilitation, VILT, in the upper quadrant. I think what we're doing is sort of in that middle quadrant, right? Where there's engagement, there's not facilitation happening, which is why I don't move it up to that top quadrant. And it falls into that whole community of practice. And what I'd love to see more of this, people have the tools for it, right? We've got in organizations, they got business Skype. I think people get hung up with, I have WebEx and I have WebEx. I go in a lot of companies that have WebEx. We use it for meetings. I go, great. You guys are already ahead of the curve to kick off your VILT then, because people are already comfortable in that environment. But what I'm also seeing, and I'd love to do more training or workshops on, is not just people that think they're going to be training for to facilitate a course, but there are some really bad people facilitating online meetings. Right. So Brent's really good at it right now. He's facilitating this, and it's not a meeting, but he's facilitating this experience right now. And a lot of people aren't comfortable enough to do that online, So, they don't know that, a little bit of a structure to it. Here's our agenda. This is free flowing today, but I sent some ideas to Brent. I'm like, hey, it's who I am. I'll talk about whatever you want. I mean, I'm a yoga instructor. We can sit here and talk for the next half hour about yoga if you want. That'd be great.
No, maybe we should. I have a tendency to go off the rails, so it's a theme that happens in TLDChat, and it's great because the people in the chat always tell me, "Hey, get back on the rails, Brent. Get back on the rails." So
my husband calls it leapfrogging. When I leapfrog on him, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, are you talking about the conversation we had yesterday? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm finishing it in my mind, right now, I'm finishing it. It makes sense to me. I don't know.
Right?
So anyway, sorry, I just leapfrogged on you. But
squirrel.
I think to finish answering Sam's question, I find this kind of in that middle quadrant area, and I love to see more of this. One, I think it would get people more comfortable with the technology. Two, more comfortable making those connections. We're seeing that. We're trying to see that model happen with social learning within the organizations, but organizations I don't feel like really glomming onto it yet, and
taking a while.
It's taken a while, but that's the way it is in this industry. I mean, mobile learning is not new. We've been talking about mobile learning for a decade, but we're finally getting there. We're finally seeing really good, effective mobile learning. Performance support, not new, but now it's like, oh, performance support. It's like, oh yeah, right. Thanks for catching up with us, in the learning and development field.
I remember when I was first getting into this field back in the mid 90s, I remember seeing Allison Rossett at an event, and she was the only one talking about performance support in the business. And I remember the session, she was getting a lot of pushback. Everybody loved her. It's hard not to love Allison, right? But she was getting like I remember the questions, people just not really getting it. And it just was really interesting. So it was fun last year to have her come and be one of the keynotes at TLDC 16 in San Diego. And now that she's retired and kind of she's gone sort of full circle, and she did a thing on happiness in the workplace. And is that our responsibility, or do we play a part in that, or can we play a part in that? It was something she's just recently been looking at, and I thought it was fantastic. It was she obviously she's very academic, so very well researched, and so she had all the data to back it up. And yeah, that's live too, by the way. If anybody wants to go back and see that, right, Luis? Don't we have a link to the live keynotes?
Yeah, I think there is a link. I'll look for it unless someone beats me to it. But I was there live, really, and it was fantastic.
Well, you just hit on something that might take our discussion in a different direction. Is it our job to make the learners happy? And of course, there's a lot of now research on, people leave organizations because they don't like their managers, right? It's like the number one reason people leave, and they're not happy. They're not getting along with their manager. So this kind of ties into my yoga. So I'm a certified yoga instructor. I've been teaching. I've been a practitioner for over a decade. I've been teaching for 7 years. And, probably a lot of people now are hearing mindfulness. So in the yoga world, mindfulness is, there's mindfulness apps. I was just downloading one the other day, Headspace. I was reading an article about making glitter jars for students so they can understand what mindfulness is. And if you're not familiar with mindfulness, it's really the ability, first cultivating that awareness that you've got this, chaotic mind, and what can you do in the moment to bring you back to the present moment so that you can be fully in that moment with the person that you're talking to, or just before you pick up that phone. And some of it's just as simple as, okay, just take a deep breath before I pick up that phone and answer that call. So I've been, thinking about this, well, how can we maybe bring more mindfulness into learning and development? And it's kind of twofold. It's mindfulness for us, the practitioner, because, for me, I'm a contractor. Things ebb and flow. When it's dry, it's, the Sahara Desert. And when it, rains, it just pours. And then oftentimes I'm juggling like 10 different clients, and it's really easy to get in this chaotic state and stress yourself out. But then I'm also thinking about, well, how can we bring mindfulness back to training? Because let's admit it, there's a lot of mindless training out there. Yeah. We see it. You can't swing a dead cat without reading an article about like how boring e-learning is. And, I've designed some of that. I know, because I can't get my client to not let me design it. That's what they want. That's what they paid for. Right. That's all they have to budget for. Like, what do you mean I only have 10 hours to do this? Okay. Well, this is what you're getting then. But how can we bring, I don't know the answer to this. This is just something I've been sort of, contemplating. How can we bring more mindfulness back into training itself? What does that look like? And and it could be really subtle, right? Like, so maybe before we have like something like this, before we have it, go, okay, let's all stand up. Let's take a deep breath. Let's close our eyes, hold it, and then exhale, let it go. Let's open our eyes and let's engage. Right there, little piece of mindfulness. And now I've switched my brain and go, okay, because let's admit, a lot of us, even me, it was like probably doing emails like 2 seconds before I logged onto this.
Oh wait, it's almost 8 o'clock. I gotta switch over.
Hope my webcam is working and I look okay. So it's just, I open it up if anybody wants to comment on that and how they feel about that. And I'm not trying to go all new age on anybody, of course. There's a lot of actual science coming out now about mindfulness and meditation and stress. I don't think people realize that stress is like the #1 health issue. Is the #1 killer. I mean, it causes so much damage to our body, stress does. And, what can we do as learning professionals to maybe help alleviate some of that, stress for our learners? Because, learners are trying, organizations are trying to fit training in because they were told they have to do this training. So how can we make it more like, that, imagine if you did that, you started in e-learning and the first thing they did was tell you to breathe. Would that maybe get your attention and go, oh, maybe there's going to be something to this training today. This is different. I don't know the answer to that, but
yeah. And I'm thinking, as you're going through and talking about that, when you first started talking about it, my first thought was, well, some of the research also says that we should push people out of their comfort zone, right? And make them feel uncomfortable in order to help with the learning process, right? They have to engage in something different. Doing something different is often uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable causes mild stress, right? So maybe not in the actual instruction, but if you know that that's where your design is going, like you really intend to pull these people out of their comfort zones during the training, that makes it all that more important to start the training with a little bit of mindfulness, right? And to help everybody calm down, maybe set their expectations a little bit and say, we're doing this for a particular reason because in 15 or 20 minutes, you're not going to feel so good. So we want you to be ready.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Because we need a little bit of stress or we become zombies. I'm not trying to be tongue in cheek, but you're right with that research. We require a little bit of stress because that's what grows us. And naturally with our parasympathetic, systems, we have this, fight or flight. It's when we start living in that high, stress level all the time when we shut down mentally and we start damaging ourselves. So, maybe how can we as, learning professionals, like you just said, like kind of help with that because go ahead, Sam. You were going to say
if we're going to bring people out of their comfort zone, they have to be there first. Otherwise you can't.
Yeah.
So that baseline level setting, provides a context within which we can feel safe enough to learn.
Absolutely. Like I'm telling you, you are in a safe environment here. We do that in VILT. So I know we're coming near our hour and let's, we can circle this background to VILT. If you don't get them engaged at the very beginning or you don't I always say set ground rules. I mean, we see this in stand up, like here's a housekeeping, here's where the bathroom is, and we're going to have lunch at this time. You want to do the same thing in VILT, especially when they go, oh my gosh, this is like a 4-hour VILT. You're going to say, don't worry, we're going to give you breaks. Please engage. If you don't feel comfortable coming on mic, please use your chat. We encourage that, but love to hear your lovely voices. If not, you want to set that, that environment, like you're in a safe place. What you say here is safe. And I think so the mindfulness, everything what Sam's just saying, but I'm, tying it back to this is how you do it in VILT, because people will just sit back and kind of be like, I don't know about this.
Or they'll be on something else at the same time.
Right. Well, I have a quick anecdote I love to share about this because I don't think it got enough promotion when this company was doing it. And I know we are pushing up close on the time, but I'm sure, does anybody remember KnowledgeNet back in the day, back in the .com? It still exists, but I think it's been acquired and moved around to other companies. But when it first started, it was in the .com boom, and it was all like Cisco certified training and Microsoft certified training and stuff like that, but it was all done online. And what they would do when you would sign up for a course, they would be live. They'd be mixed, kind of partial live, partial recorded. They would send you a care package before when you signed up for it. And in the care package was, since most of the people they were training were IT folks in cubicle farms, you know, they would send you a roll of the black and yellow striped caution tape, microwave popcorn, and a couple other little things. And then part of the instruction was, go pop the popcorn, put up the tape over your cubicle so people know you're busy and you will not get interrupted while you're doing this. Mm-hmm. And they gave them more instructions. And so, you know, you got a little snack. You know, people around you now know that you're in training, right? Or at least there's some sort of barrier. People may ignore it, but whatever. But I just thought that was so cool for them to be, you know, to be mindful of the state of the people taking their training ahead of time to do that. And it, you know, it probably cost them a little extra to do that, but I think it probably paid off really well for them.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, back when we were doing All Aboard the E-Train, and we were doing the VILT, we did the same thing because this is before everybody had headsets and, you know, cell phones and stuff. We would do that. We'd send you a package, you sign up for the class, and they actually had, you know, I'm in a training, please don't bother me, a sign that they could put up.
Awesome. Okay.
And they would get their headsets and, you know, here's your directions and like, and here's some best practices for you. And this goes back to the, like, how can I set you up for success to be a successful learner? Yeah. And we don't necessarily have to do that in a classroom, but VILT you do. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's important for everybody. It also speaks to that greater idea of there's more to our jobs than just the instructional design part of it, right? There's all these other little elements that we can do, that we can provide to make the learner more successful. And I think if we approach it from that perspective, right, we want you to be successful, we want you to perform your job better, and then work back. There's all these other things that maybe don't fall under you know, an instructional design model, but they're helpful, right? And they help the learner get into those spaces. So,
well, I'd love to come back and finish that conversation about what do we call instructional design now, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Excellent. You know, I'd say segue, but that's not what I'm looking for. A tease for the next show. We're going to have you back on. We've got to have you back on the show. This has been so much fun, Melissa.
I've really enjoyed this. I love that there's been some really great chat. I've been reading that when I can. I love Josh. Hey, Josh, I've supported Josh in the past.
Oh, cool.
He's like, it's like the HelloFresh of distance learning, what we were just talking about. So, and there was some really good chat going on. There was a little bit of debate about the marketing aligning with L&D. So that could be a really good, another conversation.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Too. And we've actually we've had a few conversations already about marketing and L&D. And I think it's a huge topic. So, I mean, we could make that a regular day show of its own and just make that the topic of the day, you know, for sure. But anyways, before we get too close to running out of time, share with everybody where they can find you. And if they want to learn more about virtual ILT, you know, how can they get a hold of you?
And Brent, I just wanted to say there is one more question in the chat. I'm not sure if we should get like the lightning round question, or in the question box, sorry, before we sign out.
I don't know where the question box is.
Cool, we've got it. I'll just read it to you. So I have used Adobe Connect for VILT, and it has afforded me lots of options for engaging people. Are you aware of any other technology that has the layout options that Connect uses? Karen Hyder and I used Connect a lot at the Guild for my course and did some interesting layouts. I would like something other than Connect because it is glitchy. Would love another option.
Yeah, sorry. The answer to that is I consider Adobe Connect the Cadillac the VILT platforms because it can do all that. But of course, when you get really expensive cars, you know what? They become really expensive to fix, and they tend to have little glitches like that. So no, I am not aware of anything else comparable to Adobe Connect where you can have the flexibility of the layout that you can do there. They probably have the most robust when it comes to breakout rooms, and the fact that you can do if anybody's done Adobe Connect, you can have multiple poll pods at a time. You can have multiple chats going at a time. You can do some really amazing stuff in Adobe Connect. So I'm sorry the answer is not a better one for you. And I'm sorry that it's glitchy for you. I mean, I practically live in Adobe Connect, and I find it usually to be pretty stable. But you know, that always has to do with your bandwidth and your participants' bandwidth, and you can't control your participants' bandwidth. And really, so that's all, you know, I'd be happy to connect with you outside of no pun intended, outside of this to talk more about it. And you know, if you got Karen, like I've learned so much from Karen. I've been working with Karen for a decade now. She's one of my best friends, and we do a lot together with VILT. We do a lot of workshops. So you were in great hands with Karen. If it was glitching for her, like, you know, it might have just been that day too. Oh yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Sam. I appreciate that. That is an excellent question. I forgot to get to the tools part, but oh well, that's what we get for being freeform. But anyways, yeah. So let's go back to where can people find you and get connected with you? Yeah, so you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Mel's Design. I cannot seem to get in my chat box. If someone can type it in,
I'll do it.
It's MELZ Design, at Mel's Design. You can always connect with me with LinkedIn. I love connecting with LinkedIn. And then my email is melissa.chambersdesign@gmail.com. So definitely, you know, reach out to me. I am always happy to talk VILT or anything instructional design, because I don't just do VILT. I do a lot of different online learning as well. And I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for having me here today. I super enjoyed this. This was amazing. I'm going to be coming a lot more to these.
Oh, fantastic. Well, yeah, share it with all your friends, let everybody know. We've already got Karen Hyder on board. She likes it too. So maybe maybe we could have you both on next time.
Oh, well, be prepared for some funniness then, because she and I can riff like nobody's business.
That's what I'm hoping for.
It could be a
seriously fantastic.
Two of us on here.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, Sam, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, Snap Synapse, SNAPSYNAPSE, everywhere you look. And I was also just on a podcast yesterday that's just fresh out. Go get that. It's at Learning Innovations. We had Mike Lenz on here a couple weeks back, his podcast with Doug Boucher. So that is new and fresh and ready for your listening.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Mel, again. Fantastic. We will definitely stay in touch. I'm going to close your video out, but you're still going to be here, so you can chat with folks in the chat for a few minutes if you want to.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
All righty. Sam, thanks. Awesome. Fantastic TLD chat today. Thank you, Mel, for being here and hanging out with us today. Really, really appreciate that. I think virtual ILT sometimes falls to the wayside when we have these conversations about new designs and learning experiences, and I think sometimes we don't give it the focus that it needs. And so it's always great to have an expert like yourself on here helping us all talk through that. So I definitely look forward to having you back so that we can continue that conversation, because there's a lot more that I think we can all learn in that space. So again, thank you very much. And to everybody hanging out today, thank you for hanging out with us. Great show. Thank you, Sam, for doing a beatboxing jingle for us this morning. I've missed that so much, I must say. We must have you doing more. It's always a good time, good stuff. And tomorrow, Video Friday. We're going to have another fantastic guest on Video Friday. But for now, I'll let you guys all hit up the website and find out who tomorrow's special guest is going to be. And for myself and everybody else at TLDChat, thanks for hanging out today. You guys hit up the website, join, become a member of the TLD community, and don't forget to get registered for the event January 29th and 30th. And if you are interested in connecting with me offline, always happy to talk to folks. So please feel free to ping me on all the local places, B Schlenker, BSCHLENKER on Twitter, and pretty easy to find all over the place. So you can definitely hit us up at tldc.us as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic day.